Hey everybody, Jake here, and today we're going to take a look at another folding knife. This is the Spyderco Introvert. Very interesting little folding knife here with a very unique design. But we'll go ahead and jump into the specs, then do some size comparisons like neutral and dislike with this very unique knife. Now as a little disclaimer before I get started into this knife has been discontinued. You can still find it some places, but it is unavailable or highly discounted at most retailers. And it was just part of Spyderco's discontinued line from 2017. They have discontinued quite a lot of their knives, actually, including some really popular ones like the Sleech Bowie and a few others. This was one that I had my eye on for a while, though, and when they discounted it, I was like, well, if this is my last chance to get it, then this is my last chance to get it. So I went ahead and jumped on it. So let's go ahead and go over some quick specs for this. Overall handle length, so more or less the length closed, is going to be, let's see, 4.75 inches. So not super small, fairly decent sized handle. The blade length is 2.78, almost 2.8 inches. Just the cutting length there. And overall length when opened, from tip to back end here, is going to be about 7 inches. I apologize, 2.78 is down to here. The actual cutting edge is 2.08. That's my bad. Blade thickness is going to be 0.09. Very thin blade on this. It is a fantastic slicer. We'll get to that. Blade material is VG10. Handle here is G10. Let's see. And it does have steel liners and a steel backlock. As far as opening mechanisms go, it has the thumb hole, which you can do a flick or thumb hole open with, and also a flipper tab back here. And this is designed by Chris Knutson, which we'll get to a little later. Alright, so let's go ahead and do some size comparisons. We'll go and do closed first. I'll have to shuffle through them. Here it is next to the CRKT folding Razel, and the Benchmade proper. So you can see it's a fairly large knife, especially when closed. It's very wide and sticks out quite a bit. So if you're used to smaller knives like the proper, it's completely different. Here it is next to the ZT-0450 CF and the Grindworks keychain cleaver. Alright, we'll go ahead and do an open size comparison here. It's going to take up a bit more of the screen now. Go ahead and compare it to the folding Razel again. And the Benchmade proper. So you can see when it's actually opened up, because of the drastic curve, it's really only a tiny bit longer than the Benchmade proper. Compared to a somewhat more full-size knife like the Razel, you can imagine if it had a tip, it'd be significantly longer than this knife, just because that curve takes away from a lot of the length. Next up we have the ZT-0450 CF again. And you can see, even though the ZT is shorter closed by a lot and a lot less wide, it's about the same length, honestly. A little bit longer. And again, the Grindworks keychain cleaver. And one last size comparison. Here is the packing tape that I'm sure you have lying around from selling some of your other knives to afford new knives that are coming up for review. If you have that around, this is a pretty good size comparison. It is both wider in the pocket and thicker than the Spyderco Introvert. So if you're used to carrying around something like this, this is going to be a nice downsize for you. Alright, let's go into what I like. First up, the thing I like the most, the ergonomics on this knife. So it's rounded here to fit in your palm very nicely. It obviously has this finger hole and this little thumb ramp here. Now, once it's in your grip, you can really lock it in. It sits perfectly in my hand. It's not too short, not too long. I like it quite a bit. If you have really small hands, it might be a bit large for you. But I don't think my hands are all that big. I think they're fairly average size, and this is really nice for me. Also, the reverse grip for this works really well. This is a self-defense knife. I believe that's what the designer intended it for. He has a post on it you can read, but that's not why I bought it, so I won't talk about that a whole lot. But the ergonomics on it are fantastic. You never have to worry about this knife getting pulled from your hand, especially with the G10. Next up is the design, which is the actual reason why I bought this. This is a very interesting knife to me. It's somewhat a mixture of like a karambit and folding knife, and it's just kind of eh. Actually, when I ordered this from Blade HQ, you can ask them for a drawing, and I actually asked them to illustrate, why Spyderco had discontinued it, and this is what they sent me. I'm guessing the implication here is that it was for, the self-defense karambit market, but it didn't really go over super well. And I can't really say I blame them. The design's very unique, and because of the blade shape, it might not be the best for self-defense. I believe karambits are a bit better at piercing. This is obviously going to be a lot more slashing, but I don't know. Back to the reason I actually bought it, though, the design. It's very interesting looking. Even when closed, it just has a very unique look to it. The handle shape is very strange. This giant protrusion in the back's, fairly nice. There are a few things about the design that I don't like that I'll get to, but overall, it's cool. I like it quite a bit. Next thing up is actually going to be the lock. Nothing special about it. It's a Spyderco back lock, but what I love is that you can actually close this one-handed. So all you have to do is click it in once, and the blade will drop down far enough for you to then just shut it. So you can completely close this one-handed. And same thing in the reverse grip. If you open it up, it's really sitting right there at your thumb, and you can kind of, from that point, go ahead and close it. The lock's great on this. Next thing, I really like the fingering on this. It's chamfered all along the outside here. See if I can get a close-up of that. Yeah, there we go. So you can see it's rounded all the way on the outside and on the inside as well. It's also chamfered there. So it's very smooth. It doesn't cut into your finger any, even if you grip it really hard or press down or whatever. It's very, very smooth. They did a great job on that. Next thing that I really like is the blade thickness. Let me just bring out a couple other knives here. So this is the ZT 0450CF. You can see we're gonna base it kind of here, so the thickest point of the knife. The thickest point of the knife, it is still a little thicker than the I can get to focus, than the Introvert, which is interesting. Bring out something like the folding Razel, and you can see it's significantly thicker. This is a very, very thin blade, and the grind on it, the full flat grind on there, is fantastic for cutting. It works wonders. I don't normally do cutting demos. If you guys would like to see that I could throw that in. It's not really a problem, but I just wanted to show this one off real quick. So this is sort of like, sorry about that, sort of cardboard, rather thin piece of cardboard here, but it just cuts right through it every time. And I have not sharpened this again. This is how it came, but it's wonderful. You feel very little resistance when you're actually cutting through anything, just because it's not catching on much. So that's extremely useful. And I'm guessing, in a self-defense situation, you wouldn't really want a thick knife, but I don't know. But it's great for cutting. Letters, envelopes, stuff like that, you can... That sounds silly, using this knife for that, but that's what I use it for. But you can really, really cut through stuff very, very easily on this. Next thing that I like is the thinness of this knife. This knife is 0.35 inches thick. That's wonderful. You barely feel this at all in the pocket. Let me see if I can actually kind of prop it up here and give you an example. The ZTO450 is a very, very thin knife as well, but it's thicker than this. The Benchmade proper is a super, super thin knife, which I love. It's still thicker than this. Now, if you compare it to like the folding razor, it's ridiculous. This thing, at least thickness wise, disappears in your pocket very, very easily. Yeah, it's actually thinner than the Grindworks cleaver, which is interesting. But the thinness on this thing is fantastic. Love it. Some stuff I'm kind of neutral toward, the branding. So you can see here etched on the blade we have Spyderco VG10, and then let's see, Seki City, Japan. That's fine. This blade is very small, and very prominently you have the little spider logo, which I kind of wish they had put, back here somewhere. And you have the Chris Knutson logo, which I also wish they had put. You could have fit both of those right here and left the blade completely unbranded. That's the only branding on the knife. It's not terrible, but it just kind of bugs me sometimes. Next thing that I'm kind of neutral towards, the scales. This is really grippy G10, which, again, this knife I'm guessing is for self-defense. Makes sense. But for me, the reason I bought it, this G10 is really just not that great. It's somewhat contoured. It's not uncomfortable or anything like that. It's not, way too grippy like the Kaiser I had, but it's certainly very, very grippy. The thing I dislike about it really is that when you're putting the clip in your pocket, that G10 is grinding your pocket to shreds. Because this clip's fairly stiff, it's not very fun. Next thing is going to be the lanyard hole. So the lanyard hole is fairly out of the way. I don't mind it in that aspect. What I'm kind of about is that it's that kind of lanyard tube that the PM2 uses, the Spyderco paramilitary 2, and that you can't really pull the scales off because it's has them kind of locked in there. So that's extremely, extremely annoying. You guys should already know this is a not made in USA Spyderco. You shouldn't disassemble it. If you do, that's your own thing, but you shouldn't. Next thing is going to be the thumb hole. So I really like the thumb hole on Spydercos. They're great. You can do the thumb opening, or you can do this one's a little difficult because you have to kind of get out of the way of this, but you can do the finger flick and open it. And with this one, you can actually do the finger flick in reverse and open it, and it's nice for that. But the thumb hole is just a little sharp. I really wish they had kind of cut that down, chamfered it like they did the thumb ring or the finger ring. That would have been fantastic. That would make this knife much, much better in my opinion. Next thing is the flipper tab. This thing is massive. Here's the ZT flipper tab. It's just hard to get a grip on this one. It's not like this one where you can just kind of it's not in the way. This is ridiculous. Now when it's sitting in your pocket, it's not so bad because because of the orientation of the clip, it kind of levels out a fair bit. But when you're actually trying to get your finger on it, you kind of have to tilt the knife and get up here and then flip it. So that's just something that I wish they had kind of worked on. I feel like they could have cut off some material here. All right, on to the dislike. First thing is somewhat small. Right here, I kind of wish they had just went ahead and followed the blade through. That would have caused, called for kind of a redesign of the back lock where it clicks into place right there. But that's not very fun when you're going to put it down into your pocket. It can catch, just little things like that. And this somewhat helps, but it's still there, and I just wish they'd done something about it, even if they just tapered it down just to close out that little hook area. Next thing is the detent. This is a flipper knife, primarily, in my opinion. If you're going to put a giant flipper tab on the back, make sure the detent's good. It's very easy to misflip this knife. You can see it didn't lock in there. It's super, super easy to do it. If you don't intend to open this knife, it's not going to. You kind of have to flick it pretty hard. And you can't really push button flip this open, because no matter how hard or how fast you go, that little dip right there catches you. But it's just annoying. I wish they had done so much better with the detent. It's a great flick open knife for the most part. If you can kind of get out of the way of the giant flipper tab, that's wonderful. Especially in reverse grip, like I said, it opens like a dream. But if you're gonna make a flipper tab that big, make sure the flipper tab works and that the detent's good. It's a massive oversight. As my first Spyderco flipper, this is trash. The detent wise, the knife overall is fine. Next thing is this is really short cutting edge. Again, I know self-defense, blah blah blah, but for everyday use, I really feel like they could have cut down on this a whole lot more. The blade shape's somewhat fine. I kind of wish they'd done a Spyderco kind of a leaf shape, maybe something similar to the Dragonfly, but it's not bad. It's just short. The cutting edge for what you get is just little, especially when you compare it to, like, again, the ZTO 450, smaller handle, much more blade cutting area. It's a little bit ridiculous. Okay, last thing I dislike about this knife is the price. As I said, these are discontinued. You can pick them up right now for about $125, which is what I paid for this one. Before they were discontinued, they were close to $200. This is G10 and VG10 steel. Now, granted, it's a lot of VG10. I understand that. But thin sheets of G10 and VG10 steel for $200. For less than $200, you can get S35 VN, carbon fiber, and titanium. And I don't understand why Spyderco priced this high. $125, this isn't bad. If this is what you're looking for, you like the design, grab it. $200, no way. That's just a garbage price for this knife. I feel very sorry for anyone who bought it full priced, just because if I had, I believe I would have regretted it quite a bit. But I didn't. I'm not sure this knife's going to stay in my collection forever, but at the moment, I really enjoy the design, and it's a very unique piece to have. Alright, thanks for tuning in, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Apologies for the long video time. But just keep an eye out for some upcoming videos. Should have an ink review coming up tomorrow or Thursday, and then another pen review on Friday. Thanks, guys. Bye.